Welcome everyone to the Moisky News for May the 5th, 2020. Today I would like to talk about MPs' expenses, because they're back in the news and I think it's worthwhile addressing. For this we're going to use who I commonly call the paper pervert, aka Ian Blackford, the parliamentary leader of the SNP, MP for Ross, Skye and Lochaber, who last year claimed the second highest amount of expenses than any MP, at £242,000. For those who don't know who he is, he was arguably one of the biggest Ramoners of all the Ramoners, because his only interest was in the interests of Scotland, and apparently the SNP know best, and by that, we must stay in the EU. I'm sure given enough time he'll become a rejoiner. The article I've linked below goes on to detail his 10 acres of land, the £1.8 million he got from shares in a now sold company, and his $3,247 per calendar month additional income from chairing the Golden Charter Trust. This, on top of his £81,000 MP salary, paints the picture that he doesn't need to claim the expenses. Because he's the leader of one of the biggest opposition parties, he gets a larger expense budget. That budget means more staff. Just because he, like every other MP, has an income away from Parliament, does not mean he should use that when he can pay for the staff with the taxpayer money. Now, there is an argument about what expenses and what staff are considered, let's say, acceptable. There is in fact a watchdog who deal with that. Because of COVID-19, MPs' expenses have increased by an additional £10,000 per month to help pay for working from home. This comes from the IPSA. The IPSA are the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, who issued coronavirus guidance. The new guidance offered that £10,000. But where they've done a bit of a interesting is where they've relaxed the rules relating to payment of expenses, but also relaxing the rules by which MPs provide evidence that is needed for costs to be reimbursed. This understandably is where a number of people have taken issue, because they're worried this might allow MPs to take liberties again. We all remember the duck pond. Yes, duck ponds. A valid, worthwhile MP expense. Now, many MPs, when the original MPs expenses scandal hit, had to pay it all back. Good. There's taking liberties, and then there's taking the piss. And they were so close to going past taking the piss, they almost took the Michael. The current relaxing of the rules would include allowing MPs to pay for things like laptop for staff, electricity. Simple things. Critics believe that this approach is crude, and that MPs have to be warned the extra money must be used properly and not used as a personal equipment slush fund. Sir Alistair Graham, a former chairman of the Committee on Standards in Public Life, backed up the statement that it is crude by saying, "I think the public may be slightly puzzled as to why what looks like a generous payment of this nature has been made without first doing a bit more research into what the actual costs are." What I find fascinating is they're able to get access to that a lot sooner than, let's say, those who have been furloughed, or those who are self-employed who still won't have access to anything until mid-June. I'm not salty, but I do think it's a very discourteous thing to do. Considering the circumstances, the government makes it quite clear they are more interested in themselves than they are in everyone else, and I take great issue with that. I worked out how much I lose a month. I lose about £700 a month because I don't have any work. But Parliament can get an additional 10 grand a month, months before I'm able to do anything. It's quite insulting, I will say that. James Roberts, a political director for the Taxpayers Alliance Group, has said that while it's reasonable for MP staff to have access to the equipment they need to work, politicians should take care to use the cash properly and avoid it being seen as a personal equipment fund. To finish, because there is a point I want to address quickly about this. This will be very hard to downplay in a positive way in the sense that MPs have access to more money. it's always going to be difficult. I can understand why they would need it, but I do have to take offence because they are able to get this a lot sooner, and it wasn't long ago they got a pay rise and an increase in their expenses anyway. I also think using Ian Blackford in this context just because he made a lot of money from a few sales and because he has outside work to make it seem like he should just fund it all on his own, which is the conclusion that is very blatant and obvious, is very dishonest. But do, if you disagree with me, please let me know in the comments down below. I would also say, because of his size, Blackford needs all the money he can get to buy those tailored suits. Pudgy git.